I grew up with a huge backyard garden, and my mom she had a real green thumb. And so, whereas most people had a swimming pool or, a nice decorated backyard landscaping and stuff like that, we literally had this huge patch of dirt. And every year we would go to the local barn. I grew up in Palo Alto, so very fertile soil. But every year we used to go to the barn and just get a bunch of manure and bring it in the backyard and mix it in. And every year we just had this huge garden in the backyard. So I grew up a huge gardener and didn't really think about it much growing up. It was just part of what we did. I can still remember my mom during the summer. She would come around and wake us up really early, just before sunrise, and you'd have to go out there and water by hand. We had corn, all the classic stuff, tomatoes, some lettuce. We had fruit trees that were already around the house, but just a variety of vegetables. So that was really good, and I just have simply carried it over into my adult life once I settled down. When you're a student and traveling around a lot, you don't necessarily have the time or the place to do stuff like that. Although when I was in grad school, I convinced this family I was living with to give me a little patch on the outside. I grew some lettuce and stuff, but it was always kind of scary because there were a lot of dogs and cats in the neighborhood, and I was always afraid that they were like peeing on it and stuff. So I didn't really eat much of that. But we've been here for, 23 years, 22 years, and we bought this place from the people that built it. There's only been one owner before us, and they were decidedly not gardeners. They had one little patch on this back shelf that they had some screen over where they grew some herbs. And besides that, it was just all overgrown. We realized that when I was digging holes for the apple trees and everything, we'd get down, and it's not good soil again. It's like clay. If you get down 3 or 4 feet, you literally hit a layer of clay, and you can scoop it out. So the soil is terrible here. I mean, all my apple trees and apricot trees, they're in the equivalent of a huge bowl because nothing. They're getting nothing if their roots are in that gray stuff, and the water can't go down either, which means I have to do a lot of composting and mulching from the top. Then I created some vegetable beds, you'll see, and I just built a new one out here. And I started out growing a lot of vegetables. And not only that, but over the years I realized that here I have boxes, I have these elevated beds. And so I really have to think about what I'm planting in there to maximize because the space is so restricted. And so I started growing out this diversity of plants. And over the years, I narrowed them down to the things that really taste different that you grow on your own. Like you can buy really good lettuce and they're organic, but I just basically have narrowed it down to garlic and tomatoes and zucchini. I've always loved garlic, and I became interested and I realized, hey, it's really simple to grow. It's really good for you. It's good for your respiratory system and your circulation and all these other things. We call it the stinking rose because I think that it's actually in the rose family. The reason why it's easy to grow is because here you can put it in the ground in the fall. Before we took off to vacation 2 weeks ago, I put all my garlic in the ground and it's already coming up. And the reason why it's a good thing to do in the fall, October, it's starting to cool down a little bit. The rains will be coming fairly soon. And so, it's just kind of self-maintaining. You have to prepare the soil properly, and then you put it in the ground, you space it out properly. You can't really crowd it too much. And then you just let it do its thing all winter long. It grows on its own, watered by rain. You don't have to worry if it gets dry for a while. Late winter, early spring, you got your plants on top that are 2 to 3 plus feet, and you don't let them send out a shoot. You always have to, the scape it's called, you have to keep cutting that off. Otherwise it takes energy away from the bulb, as they say, and I was just holding it in my fingers in air quotes. And you might want to fertilize it a little bit late winter, and then basically you just let it go with the water regime unless rain stop early. You might want to water a little bit, but the trick to garlic in terms of harvesting is to let it sit in the ground and dry out in the ground. You can bunch them and hang them. I hang a lot of them in the basement next door to my office here because it actually stays cooler. What became interesting to me was that everyone, when they think about garlic, for the most part, they think, oh, well, Italians eat a lot of garlic, right? Well, garlic is grown in Italy, but if you look at where it originated from, it's actually, I believe, originated either from China or on the Chinese-Russian border. A lot of the types of garlic that I grow are called Georgian fire. There's a lot of Korean garlics, and all of them tend to be far more pungent and hotter. I make sure to mark my different plots, and then it's just fun to see how they taste. They all look a little bit different, and they all taste different. Some of them last longer, and so they're really fun to eat, put into different recipes. And I actually eat garlic raw. So there's a whole world of garlic out there that people don't know about. So it's just a passion I have. It combines my love of nature and love of eating.